This is the GARIS Masculist MGTOW flyers. That is 2 3-page essays on the themes of masculism and MGTOW, written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de GARIS. This is flyer number 83. You may notice that I'm looking down more than before, more than usual. This is because I'm having more trouble with my normal big screen getting its computer to connect to the VPN, Virtual Private Network. The bloody chinks in their firewall are making it more and more difficult for me to connect. And the problem is just slowly getting worse and worse and worse. That issue alone may drive me out of this shithole country. Anyway, flyer 83, entitled, "It's critically important that MGTOWs Masculists educate the public." Description. This flyer emphasizes how important it is for MGTOW/Masculists to educate the public about MGTOW/Masculist ideas so that society is made men-fair. Otherwise, the MGTOW/Masculists will continue to wipe out whole populations by refusing to marry and have kids, thus crashing the birth rate. Now for the flyer itself. It is critically important that MGTOWs/Masculists educate the public. I was listening to a Western MGTOW on YouTube who lives in Japan. Family name is Asami, A-S-A-M-I, and personal name Shinnu, S-H-I-N-N-U, who got burned by a fluffy wife, saying that, in his opinion, 2/3, not 1/3, of young Japanese men are now herbivores, that is, the Japanese version of MGTOWs. This means that both the US and Japan are now faced with the greatest crisis in their histories, that is, the wiping out of their populations, due to the male strike of men refusing to be man-slaves to women and refusing to have kids. You can look upon the essence of masculism, men's lib, as a rebellion by men against working for women. There are, of course, many other aspects to masculism/MGTOW, but that's the major one. And because of it, whole populations are being wiped out. This is of enormous significance to society, so society should be educated, in capitals, into the most important issue of our historical era. Given this critical importance, it's imperative that MGTOW/Masculists educate society into MGTOW/Masculist ideas so that society can be saved and not be wiped out due to the continuation and spreading of MGTOW/Masculist ideas. There are at least 6 major groups of people within society who need to be educated this way, namely women, non-MGTOW masculist men, journalists, gender politicians, teachers and parents. Women need to be taught that men refuse the traditional man-slave role and demand that women be FIPs, that's financially independent persons, or they don't get a man. The opposite of FIPs are fluffies, traditional women who expect to be able to parasite off the money of a man. Fluffies are the enemy of the masculists, who label them as immoral, parasitic, man-slaving vermin, and have nothing to do with them. MGTOWs/Masculists don't even fuck them, preferring to fuck FIP women as a way of punishing fluffies. The primary political goal of the masculists is to wipe out fluffydom, that is, to wipe out the fluffies, but not by killing them, but simply refusing to have anything to do with them so that they rot on the shelf to extinction. Masculists have slogans to educate women, such as, "Be FIP or be manless." Rather a FIP than a fluffy. Fluffies are the enemy of the masculists. Fluffies are immoral, parasitic, manslaving vermin. Masculists put enormous moral pressure on fluffies to convert themselves into FIPs, otherwise they will be manless, loveless, sexless, babyless, poor, and in time shunned by society, as society becomes increasingly conscious of the man strike. You can look upon MGTOW/Masculists as the 21st century equivalent of the 19th century North American abolitionists who fought against Negro slavery. MGTOW/Masculists need to educate non-MGTOW/Masculist men that the traditional male man-slave gender role is toxic for men, due to the fluffy feminists having taken over the divorce court system, which is made to divorce toxic and hence marriage toxic, given that half of marriages in many Western countries end in divorce. Roughly 1 in 4 married fathers will be financially massacred by the divorce courts. They will lose their kids, their house, pay child support and alimony to their fluffy ex-wives so that she continues to parasite upon him after the divorce the way she did before the divorce. These odds of 1 in 4 of being financially massacred are totally unacceptable to me. So it's not surprising that 70% and rising of young men in the US under 35 refuse to marry and have kids, thus crashing the birth rate and wiping out the US population within a mere century, with a similar story happening in Japan. MGTOW/Masculists need to approach the journalists with one of the biggest stories of our century. That is, whole populations are being wiped out because men refuse to be manslaves to women, and that women must get off their lazy parasitic bums and become FIPs by having a FIP-oriented education. MGTOW/Masculists should be spending a lot of their time and effort to contact and educate the broadcast media journalists, so that these journalists in turn can present MGTOW/Masculist ideas to the millions, the billions, to really get these ideas out to the public. This is critically important for the MGTOW/Masculist movements. Otherwise, the MGTOW movement particularly will remain a pissweak fringe organisation the way it is now. Although I wrote this 1.5 years ago, so things have changed a lot since then. The interest in MGTOW in Google Trends is doubling every, less than a year, I think. The gender politicians need to be mass pressured to menfair the gender laws. For example, the deeply misandrous divorce laws, bring in the paternity rejection right, remove legal discriminations against men in dozens of domains. By educating men in their millions, men will learn to block vote out the gender politicians from office, so scaring them that if they don't menfair the gender laws, they will lose power. A bigger goal of the MGTOW Masculists in general is to wipe out the Jewish central bankster vermin who rob our taxes and make debt slaves of us with their paper dollar debt note Ponzi schemes. This may involve the crash of the dollar in the next year or so and the fall of the US, Europe, Japan into third world levels, given that these Jewish banksters have so indebted the economies of these major nations. The MGTOW/Masculists need to educate the teachers in high schools and universities to put enormous moral pressure on young women to become FIPs, scaring them that if they don't become FIPs, they won't get a man and won't have babies. 2/3 of young women study fluffy crap majors at high school and college and are unable to make good money as adults, and then they start looking around for manslaves to pay for the middle-class house they want to raise their kids in. MGTOW/Masculists need to educate parents to teach their sons not to be manslaves by teaching them MGTOW/Masculist ideas, and to teach their daughters to be FIPs, otherwise they will not get a man and not have babies. Daughters need to be socialized in the same way as sons, that is, with the expectation they will grow up to be FIPs, that is, career competent, adult, responsible citizens. So there's a lot to do for MGTOW/Masculists when it comes to education. The immediate task is get the journalists moving. They should be contacted so that the masses can be educated by their reports that reach millions. Then MGTOW/Masculists need to get on the broadcast media preaching their ideas. MGTOW/Masculists need to spell out to society that if the gender laws, etc., are not made men fair, it's in capitals, then the MGTOW/Masculists will wipe out whole populations. They will destroy whole countries if they are not given the respect they demand. This is the most important story of our era, in capitals. Multiple exclamation marks. Cheers. Prof. Dr. Hugo de GARIS. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. YouTube channel name de GARIS, Masculist, MGTOW, Flyers. Ciao.